Okay, 3 episodes in on Falcon and Winter Soldier, and there was nothing there to tell me, oh man, I got to re-up, because of course I canceled my Disney Plus over Gina Carano, and it runs out now, so that's it. I can't. There's other ways, of course, but I don't know about that. I can't say that I'm all that interested. There's some good elements here. If it was in the class of Winter Soldier and even Civil War, which is just kind of a sequel to Civil War, boy, that would be great. And that's what I was hoping for. Of all the shows they announced, this was the one I was the most excited about. But it's kind of stale from the get-go. At least WandaVision, it was sort of interesting, and I do enjoy the performances between the two stars there, but and here they're okay, but it's just the terrible dialogue at times and the stupid puns and jokes and whatnot. There's not enough there. It turns out the most interesting aspect of it is the new Captain America. Who, and it's one way or another, and I think the signs are already there, which seemed kind of forced. I mean, they introduce him, and he's kind of just this average guy, he means well, and, he worked hard, and they picked him to succeed Steve Rogers and all that. But of course, he ends up being, having a psychotic breakdown in the comic book version anyway. He does get redeemed and becomes U.S. agent. Perhaps they'll pursue that with this character after this, but I don't know. And again, that Marvel, more times than not, tends to do this better than DC does, obviously, and that they do weave in comic book elements into it. Lately, in a lot of them, they haven't. They drop off, and it suffers when they do. I mean, you start from the template for all of this was Iron Man, and that's, you made some changes here for the times and whatnot, but it's basically the same story. Oddly enough, for a while there, the most successful DCEU film was Wonder Woman, and it did pretty much the same thing. That's her origin story right there. It's the same as what Iron Man did, and sticking to that comic book source material. And they've done that here. Now it's weaved in because they have to. The situation is what it is. It can't be a verbatim adaptation because Captain America is no longer in the picture. Steve Rogers is, don't know if he's actually died now or if it's just that he's just so old, he can't be participating in any adventures. Unless, of course, Chris Evans really needs the money and suddenly there's some rejuvenation thing, which is always possible. But short of that, they're going to adapt that story of John Walker through this, and that part of it, it's not bad. It actually works in. Sam just didn't really feel that he deserved to carry on from Steve Rogers, even though Steve himself passed the shield on to him as if he was supposed to take it on or whatever. It could have just been that he just keeps the shield, learns to use it, and he's still the Falcon, But no, I think it's pretty obvious he will be Captain America by the end of the series. But that whole narrative there, it works, how they weaved in the different stories. I'm hoping for so far, there's been maybe like one nod to racism in this, or well, two rather, referring to, the black Captain America or super soldier guy from that old story that revealed, oh yeah, there was another Captain America, but he was black and he wasn't respected and he was used as a test subject and all that sort of stuff. And they weaved that in there. But there's also the scene where the cops show up for no reason and hassle Sam Wilson until they realize who he is. It's an odd scene because then another bunch of cops show up to arrest Bucky because he violated his parole. And so it kind of disabused the whole thing. And even that, like Sam says, hey, man, I don't think the guy meant you because you're white or whatever. He says, no, he's not referring to that. He's referring because I was a part of Hydra. And that becomes that he's more of a victim of Hydra's goings on. And you're talking decades of stuff that those guys were around as established by the films. So it's a lot of stuff to look into there. And so a lot of this power broker and whatnot is an offshoot of that. So, of course, they go and get Zemo, which, kind of completes the whole circle of this being kind of derivative or a sequel, if you will, to Civil War. And he gets his mask finally. That's good too. So those are the good elements. That also is somewhat acknowledging and paying some amount of respect to the source material. It's still a little odd as to why they didn't let him have his mask in the movie, but they didn't. There was concept art that they had thought about it, but I don't know. I guess they thought it was unnecessary or whatever, but then it comes across. He grabs it like he's like, my old mask. And he puts it on like he's, it's like that wasn't established. So it's kind of odd. Maybe there'll be an explanation for it as it goes forward. I don't know. At some point I'll catch up on this, but it's not enough to justify paying for it. There's too much stupid stuff and it gets kind of stretched out on nonsense and whatnot. But at the core of the plot that, there's this super soldier serum that has managed to be recreated, but it's a modern version of it where it doesn't require all the elements that the original needed, as to what happened to Captain America, where he went from a very small, sickly guy and became this bulked up, taller dude with accelerated strength and that sort of thing. And so now you got these super soldiers who do appear to be a bit stronger than even what Captain America was. But I would think this would also tie into what the Incredible Hulk film did, where the Abomination was as a result of, they did have a super soldier serum and they used it on him, and he was demonstrating all this agility and speed and whatnot of taking on the Hulk, but ultimately he was no match for the Hulk. And then, the character that obviously was going to become leader, but there was no more Hulk films, experimented on him and he became the Abomination. Now, I would have thought there's some linkage there, because clearly General Ross knew of and had access to this serum that they were trying to recreate the original all these years later, and they finally cracked it. So in this version, you don't become a bulked up bodybuilder after taking it, but you do get the strength and advanced abilities and whatnot. Although I would imagine over time using that and being in action, you would bulk up, but whatever. It's just it makes it easier to explain why your cast doesn't quite look like that. It's not easy to come by. So there's a lot of elements there, but ultimately it comes across bland. I just was not all that souped up about it. It doesn't match up to some amount of interest and excitement I had for it out of the ones that were announced. So that leaves Loki. I don't know that I'll check back in or not. I'm still really upset over what happened over at Star Wars, which Marvel has no control over. But so far, a lot of people will check it. Well, it's going woke because it has these elements in it, even the race thing. Stuff like that was always in shows like this and stuff. But now, because there's been blatant lecturing and preaching to the point that it is a cheap manner and tawdry and tokenized way that it even belittles what they claim to believe is whatever the message is, to the point now any slight element of it is just, I'm out, can't take it. And it will shove you out of the story, which is the last thing you want for any film or show. And so it may be a bit unfair to it, but everything that's happened in other films and all their virtue signaling that goes on and that they cover that up with, it's almost always an indicator of lackluster plot and stuff. Here, it wasn't a whole lot of it, but it's enough to push people out at this point. And that may be unfair, but it's where we are based on previous endeavors. So it's a bit upsetting. It's not as good as I thought it could be. And maybe it'll get better. It's only 3 episodes that I've seen, but we'll have to look back on that at some other time, and we'll see. But that's it for me on those shows. Again, perhaps we'll meet again at some point, but I got to move on. You know, they forced the situation, and if Marvel's upset about people leaving D+, they need to talk to Lucasfilm about that. Get your act together. It's probably too late for those, but it's a really bad situation. It isn't just the Lucasfilm business; it's the absolute hypocrisy of it in their dealings with Beijing and stuff like that. And yet they're gonna get on their high horse over everybody else. No, I don't think so. And it's just there's no escape, and the entertainment you provide is supposed to be the escapism. And then you just won't do it, and it's burning things down. So, yeah, not enough to change my mind on that. If it had been this incredible piece of work, and then I could say, well, you know, they're not responsible for Lucasfilm, and they're not. But it really isn't. That being said, I don't think that the woke business that's in it is enough to condemn it outright at this point. If it goes almost like word for word with the Sam Wilson story of him becoming Captain America as the comics were, then yeah, it'll be pure crap. But if it's just an element of, well, he takes it on, fine. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, Falcon is the name that he built up. You know, that's him, not some other guy's title. What are you going to do? Anyway, maybe we'll revisit this at a later date. But as for now, that's it for me on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.